something that kind of got my attention that I thought was worth talking about today. I almost felt like it was like a Negro 911. You know, it was. I mean, because I mean, I didn't expect to see this, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of prime everybody on what we're talking about. It almost looks like, based on what's on the cover of CNN right now. Let me see if this is actually the lead story on CNN. But it almost looks like, you know, Morgan Freeman, the actor, has, you know, kind of been positioned to become, you know, almost like the new Bill Cosby. Let me show you guys a screenshot here of literally, this is CNN.com right now. Give me a second here. Let me share my screen, and you guys can see this. So right now on CNN.com, you see this. Women say Morgan Freeman crossed the line. The actor responds to a CNN report on alleged inappropriate behavior, says he would not intentionally make anyone feel uncomfortable or disrespected. And you see, I mean, it's the head story. I mean, today there's big news on North Korea. That didn't make the head story. You know, there's big news about this volcano apparently that is threatening all of Hawaii. That's not the lead story. There's always craziness happening in the Trump administration over which porn star he slept with, or which person he's cussing out because he wants to, you know, accuse him of espionage or whatever. But that's not the lead story. The lead story today is Morgan Freeman, a respected black actor who's being accused of inappropriate behavior. They have sub-stories, videos of exchanges between reporters. Are you obligated to report sexual harassment at work? What happens when you witness sexual harassment in the workplace? Before I even dig into the details of the story and everything, did you ladies hear anything about, you know, what was going on with Morgan Freeman?
I read the story this morning. I read through it. Didn't surprise me. Nothing surprises me in this area. No.
What did not surprise you?
Just another story that somebody's, you know, an actor is harassing someone. I mean, it's just all too common. I think it's just all too common these days. I wouldn't have guessed Morgan Freeman, but the reality is we don't know any of these people. You see them play a role on stage, and that's it. So it didn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either, because didn't he like have a whole relationship and affair or something with his granddaughter?
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, he apparently likes young women. I don't think this is his biological granddaughter, but it's still.
It's not, but it's still. He
raised her. Much.
That's still gross.
Yeah.
He probably changed her diapers when she was little. So, you know, that's still kind of gross.
It's very gross.
Ooh, that's just nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's strike one against Morgan Freeman.
That's about all.
That does not look good on your resume. I used to change your diapers, and now I'm buying your lingerie. Like, come on, man, for real. You don't go from like Pampers to Victoria's Secret, right? But to in his defense, slightly, and it's not in his defense entirely, but I don't think this is his biological granddaughter, but still, it's somebody's granddaughter. You about 100. Morgan Freeman, it was one of those guys that it's like he's been old my whole life. You know, you ever have people like that? When
he's always playing old roles too. So
yeah, when I was in high school, you were old. You know, and so it is kind of weird. And I thought about that when I heard about the allegations. Now let me go in here and kind of give some details on the story and kind of what they're talking about, and we can kind of go piece by piece and kind of break this down. Basically, the article on CNN says that a young production assistant thought she had landed the job of her dreams when, in the summer of 2015, she started working on Going in Style, a bank heist comedy, starring Morgan Freeman. Now, for some reason, this page switched up on me. If it does that again, I'll just read from my phone. But the job quickly devolved into several. I'm Captain Obvious at Hotels.com. Sorry, you know what? Let me do my phone, because this. Yeah, I hate it. Don't you hate that when you're on a website and they start playing a video and asking permission? It drives me crazy. So it says, but the job quickly devolved into several months of harassment, she told CNN. She alleges that Freeman subjected her to unwanted touching and comments about her figure and clothing on a near daily basis. Freeman would rest his hand on her lower back, rub her lower back, she said. In one incident, she said Freeman, quote, kept trying to lift up my skirt and asking if I was wearing underwear, end quote. He never successfully lifted her skirt, she said. He would touch it and try to lift it. She would move away, and then he'd try again. Eventually, she said, Alan Arkin made a comment telling him to stop. Morgan got freaked out and didn't know what to say. What do you think about that, just as far as like a first paragraph?
That's deep, right? Because first of all, when you think about the fact that, I always have to go back to the fact that he dated his granddaughter with absolutely no problem. And he was there. Right? So if he is okay with that, the fact that he went and touched the young girl's back, and those are just like simple signs of like, you know, I want to sleep with you. I want to take it to the next level. If you're in a workplace and a man puts his hand on your lower back, right, and he's constantly rubbing on you and touching on you, you know, those are just signs of the harassment. So I'm not shocked. I'm just not shocked by it, especially when it comes to Hollywood. You have the Weinsteins, you have, you know, all of these other folks. It's just kind of like, it's almost par for the course. And you know, shame on him for thinking that all these years he can get away with it.
But so many men have gotten away with it for a very long time. I think as a woman, Boyce, I mean, I think it's not shocking to us because we've been women all of our life. I mean, this is a regular occurrence for the average woman. I mean, I'm not saying the average, you know, man tries to lift up your skirt. But, you know, walking down the street, it's nothing to get advances or looks or calls it's just so common. So I'd be shocked if there are many women out there that find this shocking.
Okay. And, you know, I think that's interesting. And I think, you know, the idea of being made uncomfortable while you're working and things like that, it's not fun for anybody. I'm trying to sort of figure out, you know, is there a place where there is a line drawn, you know, does this mean that any man who makes a comment about a woman's looks is a predator? Does that mean, you know, or what if, because I've had times where I've walked up to a woman I've worked with and respected and put my arm around her and said, hey, I just think you're great, or gave her a hug, you know, or something like that. And I'll admit, like, I'm a little nervous about giving hugs because I'm like, is this hug going to be interpreted in a certain way? You know, is somebody going to walk away and say, oh, you know, Dr. Watkins hugged me and I didn't want him to hug me, so that makes him another R. Kelly. You know, how do you, as a man, how can a man even draw that line between, you know, between just, you know, normal behavior versus what might be considered later on by somebody to be just just, you know, incredibly indecent?
I think that, first of all, I'm sure when you went and hugged someone, it wasn't an unsolicited hug. Right? And that's the difference. So normally when you walk up to someone and you're, you know, seeing them, you haven't seen them in a while, then you kind of give a hug, right? But when you're doing things that are unsolicited, when you're touching people who don't want to be touched, or you don't know if you have their permission to touch them, then you've obviously, you have crossed the line. If you're going around all day, just touching people's skirts, touching touching them on their lower back, then, you know, that's just crossing the line. Like, it's just something that you shouldn't do. And I think that's the issue that men have, because they feel like, you know, we just kind of want to do what we want to do. And I'm like, no, you got to kind of like, if somebody doesn't want to be touched, don't touch them and get permission. Like, you know, and better yet, don't touch them at all. How about you put your hand and see yourself?
Oh, I think, Shell, you know, I think we know, you know, as like I said, I go back to just being a woman all my life. You know when somebody's hugging you to give you a hug, like, hey, I haven't seen you in a long time, and you know when it's a creepy hug. You know, a guy will hold you tight and try to push. We know. I mean, I can't describe what it is. Michelle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we know when a guy is touching us. And he's on some other shit, you know. So I feel bad for you, because if you were some broke dude, nobody would care. But because you are who you are, you open yourself up to women like what was it, the basketball player that just got himself in trouble because the chick lied, said that he beat her up or something. He was domestic violence because he broke up with her. You know what I'm talking about? What story I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, you open yourself up because, so you do, my point is, boys, somebody like you has to be cautious. I hope it doesn't prevent you from being you, because I know who you are. We've known each other way too long. A hug from you, you know, it's all good. But, you know, when you're a target, you know, people assume you have a ton of money, you're a target. So you have to be careful.
Well, you know, I think that, you know, and I think having this conversation without it being just about a Morgan Freeman,
right?
Just about the issue. You talk about being a target, and I think that's what's interesting is that, you know, this is a space where lots of people can feel like, you know, lots of people have the potential to be victims, including men, right?
Yes.
You know, I can imagine, for example, let's say that you are a man and you gave a woman a hug and she worked for you and she wanted a promotion and you didn't give her the promotion, and then she comes back and says, girl, you know what a creepy hug feels like. I hugged that guy and it was creepy. And so it's fine. I think it's fine for people to say what they want to say. The question is, do we have an ability to provide justice to ensure that somebody isn't just on a vendetta, that somebody isn't just like saying, look, I want to destroy this dude, so I'm going to go around and tell him that he gave me a creepy hug, and that's going to paint him in a certain light.
Well, you don't. You don't, because the problem is, you know, perception is reality. So as soon as somebody comes out with an allegation against, you know, person dude A or dude B, it's out there. You know, it's out there. Now it's up to you to prove, and that's the crazy thing. Now it becomes up to you to find evidence and prove that that's not who you are. You know, whether it be character witnesses, and, you know, I sort of take it back to the Bill Cosby thing. You know, one woman coming out saying it, you know, okay, you know, one woman. When you have 30, you have 5, but you have 30 women, 60 women saying the same thing. You know, you look for a pattern. So, Michelle, we talked about this before, but, you know, go ahead, Michelle.
You know, it's interesting because I think until I'm an entrepreneur now, but when I worked in any office, every single time I experienced sexual harassment.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's common. It's so common. And especially in finance, where, you know, you spend a lot of time out with clients, you know, their corporate cards being thrown around. In the investment banking world, you know, everybody's going out drinking out. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the investment banking world. And
but I think
alcohol, any situation, I get it. But you get alcohol.
Michelle?
I said when it can happen in any world, right? Because I've been in offices, nobody's drunk, nobody handed him a drink, but I saw a creepy hug, right? Once the hand was on my lower back, once it was kind of like the hug that I didn't even ask you to give me, I would tell, but I would claim my space. I would say, listen, back up, I don't like that. And they would get, you know, at first it's kind of laughing, like, and I'm like, I don't like that. Like, this is my space, and I don't need your hug. You can say hi to me, and I'm cool. I don't need you to do anything else. So as we're still at the same time, we have to learn to kind of like back people up. But it's not just men, man. There's women out here who are in the work sexually harassing these men.
Yes.
Wait, sexual harassing these men?
Yeah, there are women who power trip and sexually harass men.
We hear in the news. There's some stories. It is.
Yeah, well, you know, I think that it's interesting, right? I think that obviously we know sexual harassment is real, and we know that it happens. And I think that what's interesting is you mentioned something earlier, Dr. V. You said that, you know, that if I was falsely accused, let's say as a man, somebody says Dr. Boyce was giving me creepy hugs, and she's going around telling everybody that, she gets on TV and says it. You said that it's up to me then to get character witnesses who say that I'm not that kind of person.
I was giving an example, but yeah.
Right. I understand what you mean. Yeah, and I would almost say that my point of view is that the burden of proof is not on me. It's not up to me. I mean, we're supposed to be in a country where you're innocent till proven guilty. So I think the burden of proof should be.
But that's not reality, B.
Right, it's not reality, right? And the question is, what reality is subjective at this point, right? It's sort of like, whose reality are we going to subscribe to? And we know what's real. We know what's happening, right? We know, like right now, I think that what has happened is that there's a legitimate effort to deal with long-held harassment, long-held traditions in the workplace that have been designed to make women uncomfortable and to be harmful to them. But it's also flipped into a little bit of a witch hunt. It's flipped into a little bit of a space where anybody with a vendetta can put somebody down. And like any movement, if you want to maintain the credibility of that movement, you have to have some sort of vetting process before you say, okay, this probably happened, right? So, you know, like, for example, if I really wanted to take a dude down, here's all I would have to do. I would just if I could find 5 women that are mad at him and say, I'll pay each of you money, say some horrible shit about this man, and say it publicly, I could destroy him like that. I could destroy him like that. All I gotta do is I ain't gotta find women that he actually hurt or harassed or nothing like that. I just gotta find 5 women who are mad at them. And most people have at least 5 women who are mad at them, women included. Right? Michelle, I'm sure you got 5 women that are mad as hell at you, right? You know, who, if I paid them enough money, they would be like, yeah, Michelle did that. Me too, me too, me too. So it doesn't mean that the Me Too thing is wrong. It doesn't mean that everybody that accuses somebody of something is lying. It means that you have to have a vetting process. And my question would be, you know, do we have a vetting process, you know, in place? Is there any vetting, like, or is it just, you know, if you're accused, then you're done, and then that's okay? What do you think?
There isn't any vetting process, and I think that's what kind of, you know, makes it scary.
Yeah.
And I think that's where men need to begin to really take heed, right? Because this is not, it's going to get worse, right? Because now basically you've opened Pandora's box.
Yeah.
You're letting all of these allegations fly. Nobody can go backwards and see if these allegations are actually true, right? And a lot of these women are not saving evidence. They're not Monica Lewinsky's out here. They're not saving a blue dress. Right. So, you know, you're going to get a lot of that if, you know, these men are not careful, because you don't have the due process. You don't have that. That's not there. We don't know if a lot of these allegations are true.
I agree. I mean, I think Shell is spot on. The reality is that once somebody puts an allegation out against you, if there's money involved, if there are sponsors involved, if there's an MBA involved, you're muddying the water, and it's damaging to your brand. And it doesn't have to be true. So you talk about this vetting process, you talk about, it just doesn't exist. People know what they're doing. I mean, this goes for the true accusations and the false ones, right? Once you throw it out there, Morgan Freeman will never be able to walk without having that over his head. I mean, it's just not possible. Even the young man that was just accused of beating on his girlfriend is still a tarnish. Now these teams aren't even, some teams aren't even look, even though she has come out and said, I lied. Some of them like, I don't want the drama. These teams don't want the drama. Look at what's the guy's name with the Kardashian? He went out and had an affair on the Kardashian lady, Tristan. He plays for the Cavaliers, whatever. That's his personal business, right? But they wouldn't even let him play the first few games in the playoffs because they don't want the drama. So all you have to do is throw it out there. There's no vetting process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're having that discussion, Boyce, where, you know, for men, unfortunately, just the accusation.
That's it.
You don't need trial. You don't need anything else.
It.
The court of public opinion
has
already, listen, they have put you on trial. They have judged you. They have found you guilty, and they have lynched you, right? All at the same time.
Yep.
They sentence you to death before you even get your day in court, right? So you don't even need all of that. So what happens is a lot of times that the women do it, then later on they go back and they say, well, you know, that was a lie. All right, she's not going to get in trouble, and the damage has already been done.
But you know what? We can flip that too. I don't think it's just the man that gets damaged. Think about the women, you know, let's look at this whole sexual harassment thing. Think about the women that are blamed, right? So then their name gets tarnished. You know, think about, let's go, I'm going way back. Go back to Kobe Bryant. Remember the Kobe Bryant thing back in the day? This chick got lynched. I mean, she had death threats. She couldn't go anywhere. And he had screwed her. He had screwed around with her. But her whole name was tarnished. She got thrown under the bus. Same thing with Monica Lewinsky. I mean, she was painted. Okay, now you can disagree. Go ahead. But so it's both sides.
Totally disagreeing. Well, I'll say this with both Monica Lewinsky and with Kobe Bryant. Those women were not raped. They had consensual.
True.
So for her to go and claim that he raped her, should she have been dragged through the mud? Fucking yes.
Yeah. No. True. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, when you talk about being dragged through the mud, I think the people that are the greatest victims in all of this are either A, the people that really are raped, right?
Absolutely.
And no one believes them, and B, the men who are falsily accused, or any individual is falsely accused, right? And both of these individuals are victims, and I think we kind of lose that. I as a man, I'm very concerned about the fact that somebody could falsely accuse another person of a crime that could possibly get that person sent to prison for 20 years, and there's no consequences for false accusations, none. That doesn't make any sense. It's wrong. Some would almost say that it's a little bit racist because the black men are the ones who end up getting these long prison sentences if they get falsely accused. And so I think that, just for the sake of fairness, it's almost as if the environment has kind of lost a lot of its effort toward even trying to be, not defending Morgan. I don't know this man, but it's interesting because when you read this article in CNN, they clearly had spent months and months and months and months and months working on this. Like this article is probably 2,000 words long. There's deep investigations. Then they did an investigation on top of the investigation. And it started with one CNN reporter who had an interaction with Morgan Freeman who said, I'm going to go get this guy. I'm going to go find other people. And maybe she was legitimately, left uncomfortable from what he said. He held her hand, he shook her hand. She said, he held my hand too long. And when he saw that I was pregnant, he looked at her and said, I wish I was there. Right? Yeah, that which is not a cool thing to say at all. It's not cool at all. So that's what she said, right? That's her claim. There's no proof of that, but that's her claim. So she went back and said, I'm going to go and just really dig in. And so what's fascinating to me, though, here's what's interesting. I've heard women say the same thing about Bill Clinton. I'm not talking about women on TV. I'm talking about women I know. I'm not talking about, like something I heard somebody tell me. I'm talking about a woman directly telling me, Boyce, I met Bill Clinton. I felt weird because I felt like he was trying to have sex with me, right? I'm willing to bet you this. Here's what I'm willing to bet. Again, not defending Morgan Freeman. It's all about where you point the spotlight. But I'm willing to bet you that if they put that same damn spotlight on Bill Clinton over the last 50 years, they would have so much shit to talk about that it would take up 500 pages of the CNN website and they still wouldn't have enough space. There ain't enough room on the whole goddamn internet to cover all the shit that Bill Clinton's been accused of going back to the 1960s. That man was a freak. I done heard stories about 2-3 hookers at a time, orgies, illegitimate babies, rape, harassment, getting his penis sucked in the White House. That's the one that was proven, right? But I mean, this man has done it all. So I'm trying to understand, white America, why nobody's touched that at all. Like why, they when it comes to a Bill Cosby, we're going to go deep. We're going to pursue justice. Me too, me too, me too. When it comes to Morgan Freeman, let's get justice. Let's go get his ass. But when it comes to Bill Clinton, it's hands off. That ain't justice to me.
No. And you know who kind of facilitated that was Hillary.
Yeah.
Hillary facilitated that. Now, Bill is, and I've been in the presence of Bill Clinton, and he is known, he gives creepy hugs. Right? Those hugs are creepy, right?
Oh my gosh.
He really wants you to join the Democratic Party.
The party, right?
The party in his house.
So, it's Hillary. Hillary has defended him. She's paid off these women. She shamed these women, right? So when you think about it, you have this powerful family, and they're protecting him. That's part of the reason why she didn't get in the White House.
I think that happens a lot. I mean, I don't know any of the facts around any of that stuff, but I guarantee you that's, we talk about, what is that show, Scandal? I mean, that shit is real. You know, people that go out there and clean up the messes of these political or very wealthy people, because there's a lot of money on the line. There's a brand, there's an image, there's a network, there's a production company, and they go in and they clean this shit up real quick. They throw a lot of money at it and they make it go away. I don't have that luxury, right? Well, I'm not a man, but, you know, or if it was the flip, right? The average person doesn't have that luxury. So I guarantee you, it's not just these wealthy people. You go back and dig under a whole bunch of broke-ass Negroes, and you're going to find the same stuff. They give creepy hugs. They done grab butts. They done pulled out their ding-a-ling, and then on to, I mean, this shit is just normal. It's just, you know, and actually, Boyce, you brought up something under the article. It said, do you have an obligation to report it? I mean, I think that's a really important question, because I have heard many women that have come out in this Me Too thing get slammed. Like, why 20 years later? Why 15 years later? They must be lying. Why did you go up to their room? Boyce, I use this example all the time. You know, when we interview for finance professors, where do we do it? Where do we interview finance? We do it in a hotel room. It's stuff that's unheard of. There are some situations where you are going to people's rooms, and it doesn't mean I should expect him to pull out his dick. But there are some situations like that, right? So, I mean, what do we think about that?
Well, you know, I mean, but remember, though, those interviews you talk about, there are several people in the room.
Well, no, I mean, that was just one.
Right, but maybe for that reason, right? Maybe so it doesn't become, you know, confusing. I think that you're absolutely correct that there are people who are never going to believe it happened no matter what you say, right? Because they just love somebody to death. They think he can do no wrong or whatever. But, you know, I think also we have to figure out at what point are we slamming a person unjustly, and at what point are we simply asking clarifying questions to ensure that, you know, that what you're saying is true, so we can be fair to everybody. Because I think that there are people who truly believe that if somebody says, you know, he harassed me or he did this to me, that they feel that anybody who even asks a question, who even says, well, do you have evidence? Like, can you prove it, any of this? Like, they think, oh, you're attacking the victim. Well, you're not attacking the victim because you don't even know who the victim is yet.
Right.
You know, I've known men who've been falsely accused of things. And what I saw was something really fascinating. When I was in college, I had a really good friend who was falsely accused of rape. And the reason I know it was a false accusation is because the court ruled it was false, and they had evidence to prove that it was false. He worked with this lady. They had sex. She had sex with everybody. And what she did and what they found was that she had falsely accused 5 other men in the last 2 years alone. Now, here's the thing. They didn't find all this out until he had been put in jail for 2 weeks. They arrested him at his job. He had to drop out of school. He spent every penny he had defending himself. Then when they find out that she's been doing this to everybody, they say, oh, sorry, okay, you can go now, right? But the thing about it is, why ain't she in jail? Why isn't she paying back this restitution for all the money they took? Why isn't she paying a fine to restore his reputation or to make up for when he lost his job? He had to drop out of school. Everybody thinks he's a rapist, right? Yeah. So I think that, you know, that we got to kind of be cautious about this idea that, you know, that if you ask any questions, you're attacking the victim, because sometimes, you know, there have been documented cases where there was consensual sex and somebody just felt bad about it. Even creepy Mike Tyson. We know Mike Tyson. The thing about Mike Tyson is he's hard to defend because, you know, the dude's crazy. Like, you'd be like, yeah, he probably raped somebody. You know, like, that's what people be thinking when they think about Mike Tyson. I'm not saying it's true, but seriously, right? But with the Desiree Washington case, what was fascinating was the ex-boyfriend of Desiree Washington, a white guy, was trying to get in touch with the people in the court because he said that Desiree and I had consensual sex, and because she was felt so guilty about it, she told her daddy that she was raped. She told him that. She said, I just told my dad that I got raped because I was so scared of him calling me a whore for having sex, right? So why isn't that information allowed on the table? Why can't we just ask a question? Just make sure ain't nobody lying, ain't nobody gonna go to jail for no reason. This is a person's life on the line. You know, if we send him to prison, he's going to get raped about 1,000 times. You know, so why not? If we're anti-rape, why don't we be anti-rape all the time? Which means that we're not going to send you away to prison unless we are 100% sure that you did what you're accused of doing. I don't think that's unreasonable. Tell me why I'm crazy on it.
I don't think so either. I had a friend, and this is he was in college at the time. And I remember I didn't see him for like a month. He just disappeared off of the face of the earth. He finally just popped up like 6 weeks later. And I'm like, dude, where have you been?
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe it. I said, what happened? He said, I've been in jail. I said, why? He said, because this chick who I was visiting her in college, and we've been having sex for like the past 6 months, all of a sudden said I raped her. He said, they came to my house and got me. He said, I was in jail for a month before they decided to drop the charges.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I'm like, that is so crazy. Like, and I said, well, why couldn't they find that evidence? You know, and why did you have to sit in jail for so long?
Right.
Why did you have to sit in jail while it was being investigated? And he was like, because that's just the process. But this was funny. He goes to me, you know, he said, I was in there and I really had like no idea what I was accused of was so big. He said in the cell, when he first went in the cell, the guy who was there with him had said, yo, what are you in for? He said, man, this girl accused me of raping her. And the guy was like, you don't want to say that. He said, next time somebody asks you what you're in here for, tell them that you robbed a grocery store. Make something, but don't ever say that you raped somebody.
Because that means he's going to get...
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I just think, you know, I think there has to be some kind of balance. That's all. I just think this whole idea that, you know, literally when people hear the word accused, they automatically assume it must be true. You know, when they see in the media so-so accused, I think we got to learn what the word accused means. That's not the same as convicted or there's evidence, you know, and I think also what's really interesting to me is that, you know, when you're getting into this conversation about somebody making you feel uncomfortable, I think that's dangerous territory, because how do I know what's going to make you feel uncomfortable? I've been in situations where I've talked to people in the workplace, male or female, and they made me uncomfortable. And they had no idea that they made me uncomfortable. You know, it might be a white woman who says something about, like when I went to University of Rochester, the white secretary said, well, you know, you're the first, and she couldn't say the word black. She was trying to find the right word. You're the first, and I said, black person? She said, yeah, you're the first one of those that we've had here. Now, if I were sensitive, I didn't give a shit. But if I had been sensitive, I could be like, she made me uncomfortable. You know, so now she's been accused of making me uncomfortable because of what she said. Should she lose her job? You know, the lady she was about 150 years old. The lady had been, you know, literally been the secretary at this school since the 1920s. I don't know, but she was there for a while. And I think it would have been wrong for me to just be able to say, well, she made me uncomfortable, and then have them go haul her away, you know, from her job, maybe take her to jail or something, you know, whatever, not take her to jail, but you know what I mean? Like take away her whole career because she made me uncomfortable. What they would probably have done if I had pushed the issue and said, you know, that made me uncomfortable. She, you know, she called me black, you know, whatever, right? You know, and what they probably would have done. What did you say?
I said, she said, you're one of those. You're the first of those.
Right. I could have really got crazy on them and made them a whole bunch of shit. But here's what they would have done. If I had really pushed the issue, they probably would have said, you know, they probably would have suggested to her, we want you to go to cultural sensitivity training because, you know, you're older than Jesus. So you probably need to adjust to the times. Yeah. You know, she was used to talking to black people in a certain way that was acceptable 20 years earlier, but wasn't acceptable now.
Or maybe wasn't accustomed to talking to black people. That's usually the issue. Right.
So my thought is this, look, is it not out of the question to say, look, Morgan Freeman, again, he's 80 years old. You know, the man, you know, cut his teeth in the industry, like, before television, like, even was invented. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, he was on.
He can still get it up.
What'd you say?
I said the fact that he can still get it up to even.
Right. I don't know. Maybe the Viagra is that good.
Right, man, pills for that.
Yeah, but seriously, you know, why can't it be? And this is a question I'm asking. I'm not even making an assumption here. But is it out of the question? What if somebody said Morgan's old? This was cool back in in the 50s, the 60s. You can't do this now. We're gonna send Morgan to a special class so he can get treatment and training on how to handle himself in the workplace. That's what they do to white people. When they make black people uncomfortable, they don't fire white people because they've been accused of making black people uncomfortable. Shit, if that was the case, I would start a real Me Too campaign and go back on a whole lot of motherfuckers back to the 70s. You know, I could go back 20 years on white people who have made me uncomfortable in the workplace, but they will never fire any of those people, especially if I'm just making an allegation and I'm describing how they made me feel. So is it out of the question to say the same thing about, you know, the gender issue? Please, ladies, give me your thoughts.
So I don't think it's out of the question, right? And the same way that white folks go and get their people training, it's the same thing that, you know, the archdiocese does with priests. Priests don't go to jail. They're raping all the kids, right? Everybody knows it. You know what they do? They send them from one
church.
One
church next, yep.
Right? Or they send them to a different country. A lot of them end up in those little third world countries where nobody's watching them. There is no real justice in place or anybody to kind of oversee what's going on. So you don't see any of that. But I think that, you know, I don't think that an accusation is really enough. I'm with you boys. Like, I think that they need the evidence, right? And I just want, you know, I want people to understand, you know, when I talk about this, I'm a victim of not just sexual harassment, but molestation and rape. So I'm not looking at it from the eyes of a woman who just wants to attack men. No, not at all. Plus, I'm not a damn feminist to begin with, right? But at the same time, I think that men have to be very mindful. Like you said, the days are long gone where you can go ahead and do whatever you want, pat a chick on the ass. I actually find it strange that men pat each other on the ass, right? I find that weird. Are you guys claiming sexual harassment against each other? You understand what I'm saying? Like, what is that?
Yeah, that's just weird. I don't, yeah. One time when I was a kid, I did that. I did because I saw the basketball players do it. I smacked the guy on the ass. It felt so weird to me. I was like, I am not that. I don't care who does that. That just feels weird. So I agree with you. You know, I think that, you know, fairness is what we're seeking, right? Honesty, justice, and I think that what is really happening is, you're right, Michelle. I think that men have to be really cautious. And I share this with guys going on college campuses. You can't go sleeping around and doing whatever. You live in a world where that can be easily misinterpreted. You know, the same way you would advise a young lady, like, don't go sleeping around on campus because people are going to say bad things about you or whatever. Well, the same thing is true with men. If you go sleeping around on campus, you might run into somebody who's a little bit off or has a vendetta, and they're going to say bad things about you, and the consequences are going to be huge.
But boys, it takes, you know, there are a lot of industries and environments where all of that is encouraged. You know, where if you're a male and not sleeping around, then something's wrong with you, or you're not a man. So not everybody's going to come across a Dr. Boyce Watkins who's going to say, hey, look, there's another way, and there's another way to look at this. So that in and of itself, particularly within the African-American male community, I mean, I know it exists everywhere, but in this pop culture, this rap culture, I hear these kids, you know, it's all about sex and how many conquests they get. So, I mean, I think it matters. I think the environment matters, and it's not a one size fits all. That pitch won't work in all audiences.
Yeah. If the Me Too movement ever hits hip hop, they're gonna be taking motherfuckers to jail in dump trucks. Like, it's literally gonna get real. Like, school buses full of motherfuckers who's going to prison. Like, it's just gonna be a mess, you know. Because that's an industry where the sexual harassment is rampant. It's allowed. I mean, can you imagine if every woman who's been in the videos or whatever was telling these Me Too stories? And that does speak to the racial element of Me Too, though, right? It seems that the white female stories in the corporate settings are the ones that are getting the attention. But what about all the black women who are in these environments who are being mistreated? You know, is anybody really listening to that? I don't know. What do you all think?
I don't think so, right? Not at the level that they would for a white woman. But at this point, anything a white woman is missing, you know, it's the end all be all. We have to find this chick like right now, right? Forget that a bunch of black women in Washington, D.C. have been missing forever and continue to go missing. Nobody's talking about that. But the minute one white girl goes missing, listen, it is a national tragedy. We have to find this chick. Right. But I want to kind of go back to the point that you were making about the environment that, you know, this is in. When you talk about student athletes and the universities, right, the universities come in and they bring these athletes, and the first thing that they offer them is sex with these white chicks. And that's a fact. I know that for sure. Right. So now what you're doing is you're taking this kid who's right out of high school, who probably for the most part, this is his first time being on his own. And the first thing that you introduce them to is sex, because this is, as an athlete, this is what you get, this is what you do. So you introduce them, you're throwing these girls at them. Then to turn around, right, once something happens and these chicks accuse this athlete, the same white girl that the university pushed on him is now accusing the same athlete of some bullshit. Like, the universities are responsible for that stuff and nobody's talking about it.
Oh, that's crazy. But I mean, I think that speaks volume. I mean, first of all, that's wow. But again, I think the environment does matter. I mean, I think my guess would be the theater industry, the movie industry. I mean, you know, you talk about the casting couch. I mean, I don't even know what the hell that is, but I've never been in a movie, TV, anything, but we've all heard of the casting couch. Why is that? Because it's got to be so pervasive. It's probably just common knowledge. So, again, do we blame the woman who looked up to Bill Cosby? Who the hell did not look up to Bill Cosby when the Bill Cosby show was out? Who did not want Cliff Huxtable to be their father? Who did not want Claire Huxtable to be their mom? Who did not watch that show in reverence, right? So to get a part on that show had to pretty much probably make you, you know, really set you up. So if he said, and I'm going back to the Bill Cosby thing, Michelle and I have talked about this in another show. He says, look, I'm busy. If you want to meet me, we can talk about a part, but meet me after I have some other meetings. Meet me in my hotel room. I mean, what are you going to do? You just came out to LA. Bill Cosby says he may have a part for you. Now, does that mean you're trying to use your body or sex to get a part? No, it could really mean you're just a gullible woman who's had a very powerful man that could make your career. Say, I have time to meet you, but it can't be, it's got to be under these terms. Maybe he's not creepy when he sets up the interview, but you get there and it's creepy. And he drugged you, and now it's happened. What do you do? So my issue, here's my point, and I'll let it go. My issue is that I've heard all too many of these women be accused because, one, they're coming out years later, or two, because they say they met Bill Cosby or some other famous man in some sketchy location at his house, at his hotel room. I'm just here to say that I can see that happening. I can see that happening.
Okay.
The casting couches, Harvey Weinstein is real, right? And then the thing is, everyone knew. Everyone knew about Harvey, and guess what? Everyone knew.
Nobody said anything, right?
And nobody said openly about Harvey Weinstein. I mean, everyone across the board, Hollywood's elite, knew about Harvey Weinstein and knew what he was doing. And people just felt like, hey, if you want to get into business, that's the price you got. That's what it is.
That's what it is. So do you have an obligation to say something? I mean, so that was one of the questions on the Morgan Freeman story. Do you, as a woman, have an obligation to say something? When? Do you have as an obligation, boys, if you witness sexual harassment, what is your responsibility? Or do you have any obligation? I mean, I think these are slippery slopes.
Yeah, I will say that I do think everybody has an obligation. And I think, you know, you saw where Alan Arkin, the lady says that when Morgan Freeman was allegedly trying to lift her skirt up, Alan Arkin said, stop. Right. And I think that made sense. Right. Just like, look, dude, she doesn't want you, you know, doing any of that. So back up. I think that's kind of a common sense way to respond to it, you know, because here's the thing, you know, one woman's harasser is another woman's like ego booster. Like for example, imagine if you had a guy like an Idris Elba. Yeah. If Idris Elba was running around giving creepy hugs, he would only get complaints about 10% of the time. Right? He might get, he might get complaints from just the women that don't think he's attractive, or the women who are in a relationship or married. But even half of those women probably wouldn't care. They'd be like, "Oh, he just hugged me, and I loved it," right? So let's just be clear. Every time a man shows interest in a woman, it's not always seen in a negative capacity. I think that's where some of these celebrities make mistakes, is they're used to women coming on to them. They're used to women coming on to them. And what's fascinating to me is, like, okay, so you were talking, Manisha, you made a good point. You were talking about, some powerful man inviting you to his hotel room for a meeting and things like that. And you use Bill Cosby as an example, which I want to deviate from him because if there was something where he was taking these women who don't use drugs and would never be interested in any of that and drugging them inadvertently or without their permission, that's obviously a problem, right? I think what muddied the water is that a lot of these women were drug addicts. A lot of these women took Quaaludes all the time voluntarily, and so it's like, it doesn't mean that they're lying. It just means it's hard to know, well, what's what? Did you took the Quaaludes deliberately on Tuesday, but you say you took them involuntarily on Wednesday? It's hard to figure that out. Doesn't mean you're lying. It just means we need proof, right? But what I do think is that when you're talking about that trade, the casting couch. Let's focus on the casting couch, right? We know the casting couch is real. I heard an interesting story from an actress in LA about the manager who managed, I think she managed Halle Berry and Taraji P. Henson, an old Jewish man. And he's been on the Me Too list, right? And him being on the Me Too list it's interesting. Let me tell you what my thinking on this is. Look, first I'll tell you what she told me. She said that what the guy did was, apparently he likes black women. And she said that he told her, you could be the next Halle, you could be the next Taraji. Look at what I did for them. I can do the same thing for you. And then he impressed her. He flew her around, from city to city, took her to important events. And then one day he's like, what's up? Like, let's make a deal, right? I'm an old guy, a little wrinkly penis, but I just give me sex once a month and I'll hook you up. I'll take care of you. It was like that. That's how he pitched it. And and she just said no. She said, no, I'm not interested. And he said, okay, no problem. I'm not interested in working with you, right? Now, again, obviously not cool, right? Because, now you're like, damn, it's hard to break into this industry because men have the power, and all these men, some of these men want sex in exchange for, whatever it is I want, for the fame and the fortune. But here's what's fascinating to me about that, though. And I'm not defending this dude at all. I don't think that's a good way to do business. But here's what I thought about. I said, what's interesting is that, and I've seen this up close. I'm talking more about just real life experience, especially when we started making more movies. I've had women approach me and say, let's make a deal. I hook you up. You hook me up. Right? If you know what I'm saying. Right? And they expected it. There are times where women who are down for that kind of thing expect that. They're like, and then it's not just like expecting you to accept it because you're a man, but also it's like, if you do, let's say she doesn't talk about, what she wants out of the deal. She just says, I'll do this for you, right? And then let's say, for example, the guy's like, okay, cool, let's get together, let's sleep together, whatever. And then think about this. You're sleeping with this person. She wants to be an actress. She knows that you have all this power. And you say, well, no, I don't think that should be part of the trade. Well, then suddenly it becomes, an awkward situation, right? And so my point on all this is why I'm bringing up this weird story, is that it seems to me that it's okay when that trade is initiated by the woman, but it's not okay if the trade is initiated by the man. You point to me, you show me any woman who's having sex with a man, with a powerful, rich man, where she's trying to get put on, she's trying to get opportunities, or she needs money. You show me a woman who's sleeping with a powerful, rich man who has bills and need to get paid, who ain't expecting that man to show up and help her out and pay those bills. You show me. Tell me, please. Y'all talk now.
This sounds real personal, B. You all right?
No, it sounds personal because let me tell you why. It's personal. No, it's personal because
I'm kidding.
It's personal because I'm an old school Southern black man that's raised in a way where it's not about political correctness, it's about what's real. And one thing I've always known is that if you're a man and a woman is giving you the best that she got sexually, you're supposed to be there for her. You're supposed to deliver for her financially. If she's about, her kid's about to get evicted and you're having sex with her, and she calls and says, we're about to be evicted. You can't be like, well, no, sorry, I just wanted the sex, so y'all just deal with that eviction on your own. No real man does that, right? So what's
non-real men out here?
right. Well, no, right. I know that's a whole other conversation. Right. But what I do think is it's interesting though that if that proposal is made by the woman, then there's no red flags, no alarms. The man just says no, thank you, and so he loses out. He ain't gonna get no ass, but he ain't gotta pay no money. But if the man makes the proposal, and then the woman can also say no, thank you. But somehow it's perceived as the man, he's taking something away from her, right? No, he shouldn't be helping the woman he's sleeping with. He should be helping the woman he's not sleeping with, which I don't think is consistent with reality, right? If you, for example, I got a woman that's by my side that's awesome, she takes precedence. If she needs something from me, she's going to get it. A woman who I have no interaction with can't come up and say, well, I expect to be treated the same way you treat your girlfriend. I'm going to look at him like you're crazy. So I hope that this is all making sense. It's all about sort of just, this quid pro quo that's always been happening in all kinds of industries. And why is it okay when the woman makes that pitch? Because to me, if you want to be fair, you would say, if you're a woman and you offer to sleep with a powerful man, you are a predator because you're trying to steal money out of that man's pocket. Yeah, seriously, if you flip the Me Too argument, right? Because the Me Too argument says that if you're a man and you offer something to a woman financially and you say, hey, I got needs too. I'm looking for a girlfriend. What do you think? Okay, you're a predator. You're a bad guy. You're just as bad as a rapist. But if a woman says, look, I've been working for you and working hard and I'll keep doing that, and I want a promotion, how about I take care of you? And if I take care of you, I need you to take care of me. But there's no red flags at all. Nobody gets on her. Nobody talks bad about her. Whatever, right? So what do you think?
Nobody talks. I find it hard to believe that she wouldn't get called a hoe.
Well, she was sorry. You're not supposed to talk bad about her, and she certainly wouldn't have her whole career ruined. It wouldn't be on the cover of CNN. I don't know.
That's a business.
So and so secretary. Wait, what'd you say?
That's a business deal. Right?
That's a rude business deal. Wait a minute. That's Michelle's words, not mine.
That's a business deal. You see that all the time. And guess what? I'm not mad at y'all.
That's hilarious.
And a man accepts, listen, God bless both of y'all. He's getting the sex that he wants. She's getting the money that she wants. That's a straight up deal. Right? That's a deal. Now, and when you flip the script, if a man proposes it and the woman says yes, that's a deal. You have a right. You have it. That's where it becomes consensual.
Yeah, consensual. Now, so I agree. I think it's the same. If it's consensual, no matter who initiates it, it is what it is. You're talking about two consenting adults.
And here's where I think that this is why the environment's gotten crazy, is that retroactively, after you've made this consensual deal, you could still go back. A woman could still go back and say, I was sleeping with my boss and harass me, predator, right? Yeah. Even if you volunteered to do it. Look at the situation with Matt Lauer at NBC. This young lady was attracted to him because he's Matt Lauer. He was young and handsome. He's famous. He's got $1 trillion in the bank. So she's fucking him every day in the dressing room, in the broom closet, like whatever. And then years later, she comes back and says, I'm a victim. Fair exchange is not a robbery. Like that, when you consent to something, and if we believe in a world where men and women are equally capable of making sound decisions for their own lives, then I don't understand how you can label someone a predator because somebody agreed to sleep with them.
But was that her argument? Because then we had tons of women come out. I mean, there was a woman that came out and said that, it's even hard for me to articulate. I couldn't believe I read it and if they had actually printed it. But they said that he sexually harassed her until she passed out. I don't know what that means to you. It makes my stomach almost turn. So kind of isolated.
That's not cool.
That is horrendous. Okay, so again, I mentioned this before about half an hour ago. You look for a pattern. Usually things aren't one off. A predator is a predator is a predator, and they have a pattern. They demonstrate a pattern. Matt Lauer, from what I have read, demonstrated a pattern. Ann Curry came. All these anchors came out who was the one that left a long time? Katie Couric came out and was like, I told y'all Negroes. That's why I rolled out. Y'all
so the anchors were coming out too?
Yes, they were coming out and saying that they all knew. Everybody knew.
Okay, then that's a problem, right? That would be an issue, right? Now, the whole thing about like he harassed me until I passed out, that part, again, that's where I need to see like some evidence, like, because that's what people do, right? When they want to exaggerate their story, they get dramatic.
Was
and
this in a workplace?
Say it again.
Was this in a workplace with Matt Lauer? Because I feel like there's video cameras everywhere. So if he was harassing you in the workplace, unless you were in a broom closet, you said okay to go in a broom closet and speak with him, there has to be a camera somewhere.
Yeah, but you know, and the thing is, here's one thing I could say that is a good thing about the Me Too movement, is, you know, a lot of these guys that are being sort of called out and dealt with, you know, there is some sort of, you know, pattern where your common sense, your spidey senses tell you that something's going on, right? Like, so Ann Curry actually said that she alerted NBC that Matt Lauer was a problem in 2012. Yeah. Right. So that and stuff like that makes me feel better. That's like evidence. You went to HR, you talked to somebody. You know, I don't understand, you know, situations where you say I didn't tell anyone, the cops or anybody, and this person who allegedly did these horrible things to me, I was still calling him for favors and still going to see him and still taking money from him. That behavior doesn't make any sense. That's
see, the first part I disagree with. The second part I agree with. I do believe, boys, that it is not everybody's going to be a Michelle. Not every woman is outspoken. There are some very submissive women. Not everyone knows how to speak up for themselves. I believe there are environments where things are so commonplace, and we've been talking about one, the movie industry, where things are so commonplace that it's almost accepted, where women may not say anything. But I do agree that though, if you are going back and you're still taking money and that is a problem. That is a problem.
I feel like you can't claim rape or assault if you're constantly going back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to touch on Bill Cosby for a second, because I do feel like the shit with Bill Cosby was double jeopardy, right? He already paid. They went through a whole court situation, which was really quiet, where he gave this deposition, which is what really got him in the most trouble. But they went through all of this. He paid $3.5 million. She took the money. They agreed that they were not going to pursue any charges and kept it moving. Now years later, you take this exact same deposition and you use it against him when it was sealed. It was closed because he already gave her $3.5 million and you accepted it, right? If she wouldn't have accepted it and decided to just go to trial, that's a whole nother story. But she didn't. She took the money. They closed the case. They sealed the documents until they just got unsealed for these new trials. So I think when you think about, you know, things like that, if you're going back, listen, now it's on you. You had the opportunity to go in and make it right? And do what you needed to do, but you didn't. You decided to go back either for more money, for more power, because you thought you were losing something, but that does not make it right? It doesn't make it right. So I just feel like if you go back, then it's on you.
You know, I think that you both have made great points, and I've learned a lot, you know, from hearing your perspectives. And I think about sexual harassment. I will tell you this, you know, when I have been sexually harassed, I didn't like it. You know, it doesn't happen as much to men as it does to women, but I remember feeling annoyed because when you're being sexually harassed by somebody that is uninvited, you can't. It almost makes you feel like you can't actually do any work. You can't get anything done because they're constantly going back to the same shit, you know? So I think that, you know, overall, I think men have to become more sensitive to, you know, the fact that, you know, not every woman's interested in you, and every woman isn't, you know, a bunch of no's that you just have to wait till she gets around to yes. Like, you know, don't wear her down.
That's what I think. That's
right. But I think there has to be room, you know, there has to be a little bit of room for nature to take its course, where men are natural hunters. Men are, you know, a lot of women expect men to be the aggressors. But if you create an environment where a man feels like he's going to get his testicles removed anytime he makes any little comment, he's going to be scared to say anything. So he's not going to ask you on that date because he's going to be like, no, I'm not going near you because I don't want you coming back and victimizing me later on. It's like, again, it's just like, imagine if you felt that going to a man's apartment means that you might get raped, right? You're not going to have any sex with anybody. Well, a lot of men feel the same way. They're like, I don't want to lose everything because I trusted the wrong woman. So a lot of men, if you go with this rampant environment where everybody's being accused of being a predator and everybody's a Bill Cosby waiting to happen, everybody's an R. Kelly, then what'll happen is the truly good men are gonna just back up. They're not gonna talk to you. He ain't gonna look at you. He ain't gonna date you. He ain't gonna want nothing to do with you. And you're gonna be wondering why that man who clearly likes you hasn't said a word to you. And I know this because I know men like that. I know men who are smart enough. I'm gonna tell you this. When I went to teach at Syracuse University, first thing my dad said to me when I went to Syracuse is he said, don't you fuck nothing on that campus. Don't you date any faculty members. Don't you dare touch any students. Don't you fuck nothing on the campus. That's what he said. And I took it to heart, you know, and the whole time I was there, students, obviously no students. I just thought that was tacky anyway. You know, but same thing, other professors, other administrators, anybody that had anything to do with that job, no, you stand over there. I don't want no ambiguity at all because I don't want to be victimized, you know, and so I think that's what you want to kind of avoid. Like, you don't want, you know, all the men just being scared to say anything or ask you out on a date because they think they're going to be victimized. So I think women and men have an equal obligation to just make sure the environment is fair. You know, I separate the creepy dudes from the normal dudes. And sometimes even a normal dude might say something right, even a normal dude might say something that may come off as creepy. But if you let him know, you say, hey man, you can't say that. That's not, you shouldn't say that to a woman. A lot of guys will be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I won't do it anymore. Right? Make room for that without feeling like you have to chop up every person and make an example out of everybody, because that scares the shit out of people. Ladies, did you have the last? I'll let you get the last word. Did you have any thoughts on this, or what do you all think?
You first, Phoenicia. Dr. V.
No, I just great conversation. Thanks for inviting me in. I think it's more commonplace than we think. And being a woman, we all know. We've all been there, unfortunately. Wasn't surprised.
Okay. Michelle.
I think that leaving this conversation, I think that both the men and women should kind of realize what their responsibilities are within this realm of the Me Too movement. And kind of like, it feels like we're in the middle of like some type of warped thing that's going on, kind of like a time thing that's really weird. But men, you guys should know, you know, now you understand the boundaries. You don't set yourself up to become a predator or a victim of this kind of stuff. And women, if you don't like it, claim your space, right? If you don't want that man to touch you, then don't do anything that, you know, that will lead him to think that you like him, or, you know, continue on in that path. And don't go to somebody's hotel room. If somebody's calling you in the middle of the night, don't go. These are the things that lead to this type of stuff happening. If somebody calls you or tells you to meet you in their hotel room, what do you think they want? Honestly, what they want is to be with you. Like, this stuff is kind of clear. And I know a lot of it is just using common sense. So if a woman, first of all, don't put your hands on these women, have a conversation and kind of figure out where their mind is at. Because a lot of women, and a lot of women are not going to be happy about this, but a lot of women live in this fairy tale world in their minds, right? So they see a dude, they like him, they create all of this shit up in their head, and then when it's not what they think it's going to be, automatically, you raped me, you assaulted me, you did this to me. So and it's unfortunate, but you have to kind of think in that way. So it's best to kind of back off a minute, see where that woman's head is, or girl, see where their head is at. That way you can make, an intelligent decision if you want to move forward.
All right. Well, you all made excellent points, and I probably said something that's going to get me in trouble, but y'all know how I do. I just tell the truth. And I think that's the best thing we can do for people is to have honest conversations, especially for younger people. who just don't know what they're walking into. You got to be real careful. You just got to be smart. Be a decent person. Don't be out here harassing nobody and making women feel uncomfortable. You hear that. You need to hear that. Because there is a, I don't like terms like rape culture because I don't know exactly what that means. Like I can't imagine how I would ever want to participate in anything that, created a culture around rape. But I do know that there is a culture. There probably is a harassment culture among men. A harassment culture where where you have the guys that would never harass anybody, but they're kind of being nudged along by the guys who are like, oh yeah, like the Donald Trump types. And Donald was talking to the guy like, oh yeah, you can just grab him by the pussy and they won't even say anything. Like he think about this. He was coaching this guy. He was telling him like, these are the things you can get away with when you become famous and rich. And so, young guys hear that. They're like, oh, well, is that what they want? That's the thing. A lot of young dudes that don't know how to approach women, they get advice from the wrong men, or they see that they're like, wait a minute, like this dude is like he's an asshole and he's saying all these offensive things, but the women like him. Like he's got more girlfriends than me. Like that's literally what my thinking used to be. I used to be like, man, like Lil Wayne just made a song about how he was gonna rape your girlfriend and chop her into little pieces and mail her back to you, and he's a sex symbol. What world do we live in? Like this is weird to me. What makes that attractive? But he never has a shortage of girlfriends. This man had three beautiful women pregnant in the same year. So what it does for young guys is they have to get guidance in terms of understanding like appropriate behavior, because they're literally, a lot of these dudes, especially dudes that don't have fathers. I had a father that kind of helped me understand what manhood looked like. A lot of these guys that ain't got no daddy, they're seeing what celebrities are getting away with, what rappers get away with, what rich guys get away with, and then they're seeing what women are responding to, and they're learning, they're being led to believe that there's no room for the nice guy, that the nice guy will always finish last. The man with all the girlfriends will be the asshole who's grabbing women by the pussy. In fact, he'll get to be president of the United States, but your little shy ass is sitting back here with broke as fuck. Like that's literally what some men are saying. And I think that it's important to communicate a different message, but
that's
to
real big.
Understand our obligations as men and women to send unambiguous signals of what decency looks like. Like as a man, as an older man, it's my job to straighten guys out when I see that behavior. But as a woman, it's important that women explain to other women, don't be sending mixed signals. Like, don't act like with somebody, I saw a meme that said, if you're materialistic, don't trip when he treats you like material. Right. So my point is to say that if you're responding to behavior that is inappropriate, then don't go back later on saying you were a victim of inappropriate behavior when just a year ago you were telling me that was cool and sexy. That ain't cool and sexy. Make a choice.
No, that's a fact.
That's real.
All right. So last but not least, let me tell everybody, Dr. V, we dragged her into this conversation. We literally harassed her and pulled her in and made it. I'm playing. But she teaches at the Black Business School. And Dr. V actually is a very special human being. She is one of the few Black women on the earth with a PhD in finance. And I've known her for many, many years. It's been almost 20 years now, Dr. V, right? What, 18 years, 19 years?
Long time. We dating ourselves, sir.
Yeah. And she teaches in the Black Business School. She teaches a real estate program. She knows real estate. She doesn't just know the theory and all the ins and outs, but she's done it. She's made money at it. She's very good at it. If you want to take a class from Dr. V, go to theblackrealestateprogram.com. That's theblackrealestateprogram.com. And she meets her students every week. And she talks to them a lot about investing and everything else. And she's just, I vouch for her in every way imaginable, especially given that she knows how to put up with me and the weird things that I asked her to be a part of. And of course, this is Michelle Martin. She runs the Urban Youth Racing School in Philadelphia. She also does a lot of things, but I know one of the projects she has in place is Hey Mommy. Is it heymommy.com, HEYMOMI?
Yeah, but they can find it on Facebook. I'm redoing the website.
Okay, Hey Mommy, HEYMOMI. It's for women and moms and everything else. Is a great page. Thousands and thousands of people on it. So look up Hey Mommy on Facebook, HEYMOMI. And so I want to say thank you guys for hanging out with us in this conversation. Oh yes, please.
Don't forget Black Women 360, where you can find Nisha and I, Dr. V and I.
Yes.
And then sometimes you'll see boys too.
That's right.
Black Women 360. So look up Black Women 360 on Facebook also, and you can check them out there. So they're all over the internet. They're always doing their thing, and they're very smart women, and I respect them immensely. And I want to say thank you all for allowing me also as a man to give my point of view without me being beaten up for anything I say that might sound a little crazy. So it's great talking to you ladies.
That's right.
What you said?
We're not feminists.
Right. Yeah. If you were, I don't know if I'd even want to join the conversation. Say it again.
I said, so you can speak your truth, and we'll love and embrace you.
That's it.
Well, I appreciate that. I like being loved and embraced. I don't like being stabbed in the neck.
Well, wait a minute. Don't embrace them too much. We won't embrace you in a creepy way, though.
Yeah, there we go. Don't give me no creepy embraces. I'm calling it. All right. Well, take care of everybody, and ladies, I'm gonna shut this live stream down. And